Canterbury Bankstown. Again, Stephen Crichton, Josh Curran, Powasa Famasili. Is this your money you're spending? Drew Hutchison, Kurt Mann, Jamin Salmon, Blake Taff, Connor Tracy, Jake Turpin, Bronson Sherry. Is that it? Might be a few others running around that we haven't got here. Obviously, a few players have left the club. You got some good kids. I enjoyed watching the second half of that trial against Melbourne on the weekend. That was good.
Yeah, it's one thing I'm really pleased about. I mean, I came at the end of 2021. The club had run sort of second last and last its previous 2 years, and the Bulldogs had a horror run, certainly by their standards. You can't turn that around overnight. My focus has been in the setting up of a junior pathway academy, and in the belief that the Bulldogs' next great team will have to be produced from within. It will have to be developed. The major part of it will have to be developed from junior pathways. It's a longer process, but it's the only way I know now. I know how to gain sustained success, and we're well on the way with that. In the space of those 2 seasons, last year we won the Harold Matthews competition, the Jersey Flegg representative competition. Winning competitions in those past co-ed competitions is not the aim. The aim is to produce NRL players, but at least it shows you're on the right track and you're attracting the right talent. And our junior pathways teams this year are performing extremely well in the early part of their season. And as I said at the club's AGM on Sunday, I can now see that our future is in the building. We can actually see that we've got the players in the building in our junior pathways. I can see a number of them going to be Bulldogs for a long period of time, and they will come through and play first grade. Now, the team that won the Jersey Flegg last year, which is the under-21s competition, you saw a number of those play on Thursday night against the Storm. It was pretty much a lower grade trial by the time they got on the field. So a lot of the NRL players from the Storm had left the field and our side. But it was great experience for them, and they performed extremely well, and I'm glad everyone's excited about it. And there are some players there, I think, that will play their fair share of NRL. And that's a good sign, because that then gives encouragement to all the other young blokes in the academy who are training with them and being a part of them. So it's a confidence-building exercise to get them in and perform well at that level. We couldn't have done that 12 years ago. We couldn't have done that 2 years ago, to bring in a group of young fellas like that and play in a first-grade trial and perform the way they did. So that's the first really good sign. That's, we've got to the point now where I'm really happy with the academy program. I'm happy with the amount of recruitment that our recruiting staff has done, our talent scouts and our academies that we've had in North Coast and greater northern areas of New South Wales, up in the South Queensland hub, over in Christchurch and over in Auckland. We've got academy programs over there, and we've brought kids in from all areas. And of course, there was a fair smattering of local juniors in those numbers as well, and in all our junior rep teams. So that part of the program has been good. 2021, the Bulldogs ran last, a bad last after only winning 3 games the year before that as well. Virtually everything's been turned over in that 2 years. The whole roster's been turned over. We've got there's no players that played in 2021 that are still playing with the Bulldogs. Coaching staff and high performance staff was turned over. And it's virtually a brand new club. Now, for me, this is where it all starts. I'm not saying this is the be-all and end-all, but I still believe our next best team is one that's going to have to be created from all these young blokes. But what we have in the club now is a completely different atmosphere, a completely different culture, completely different work ethic. We've got wonderful coaching, wonderful high-performance teams, great medical staff. The club is really together in that regard, and what I've tried to do is put a group of players together that our fans can take some pride in, that will play good football, that will be competitive, and hopefully that's what happens. We had a horrific run with injury last year at a time when we were vulnerable. Our roster was vulnerable last year anyway, but then to get the injuries we did just made it worse, and it was virtually a write-off, but hoping for better fortunes this year.
Very good. Just have a look at the team that Cameron Ciraldo has picked to play the Sharkies in a trial this week. They're pretty much full strength. Are we to assume that the Dogs are full strength?
There's a few that aren't playing. So who's not playing? Chris Patolo is one of our promising young front rowers who hardly played at all last year, and he's had a very difficult knee problem to get right. I believe he'll be available for round 1. but he certainly won't be available for first grade. Connor Tracy, who we recruited during the off-season from the Sharks, won't be playing this weekend. Jacob Carraz has had some back issues during the off-season. He was close to playing this week, but he won't play this weekend. Jake Turpin has a broken finger. He was holding a bump pad and someone ran into it, so but he should be available for round 1. If we can get through this trial, the club should be at full strength leading into that game.
Okay.
Who else here?
Sexton's playing New South Wales Cup and Hutchison's the first grade halfback. Do you think that's the way you're going to go?
Toby Sexton is actually on the bench for first grade this week. I believe they'll both get time.
Oh, okay.
If Toby doesn't get a lot of minutes, they might back him up and play in the reserve grade trial against Newtown on Saturday, just to make sure they're all getting some minutes under their belt. Liam Knight's gone back to get we want him to play 60 or 70 minutes in the reserve grade trial as well. Yeah, they're good footballers, these blokes. And the ones that we've bought, we think, have come from successful clubs that have been winning, and that's helped bring culture and confidence. And the player, I don't want to put pressure on him, but he's been extraordinary since he walked in the door as Stephen Crichton. Very, very special young man. And, for one so young to have achieved so much, but the type of personality he is, I knew him when he was young, but to see the player he's grown into and the athlete that he is and the maturity and the leadership in him for one so young is extraordinary. So it's good. Hopefully they all stay fit and healthy and get off to a good start and build a bit of confidence as the year goes on. I was extremely happy for Bronson Xerri in his first trial match. But all the others went good too, and it's. I hope there's a little bit more football in this. I think everyone will point out the fact that we're probably struggling for depth in the middle forwards area, which is obvious. We know that. We need the ones that we've got there to stand up, and unfortunately last year the forwards that we did have were all injured for most of the year, so we had to expose a lot of young fellas that just weren't ready for it.
I've heard a big rap on Sam Hughes coming out of the kennel. Ooh. That's it.
Sammy's a good kid. And I've always liked Sammy from the first time he walked in the door. He's just had injuries. The pre-season before this, Sammy was at a rock concert and fell over a railing.
Oh, seriously?
It did something to his back.
Wasn't Taylor Swift?
He came to us late in the season in 2022, and I thought, who's this? I really liked him. He moved well, a big, tall kid and aggressive. And I thought, well, gee, he's a hope. And then he got injury and didn't play at the back end of the year. And then in the off-season, he just sort of got training. He fell over a railing or something or other at some stadium and fractured his back and did something else. So he had a couple of operations, and that led to more problems during the course of the year. And he didn't really have an off-season. Then he had some calf strain, then he had a hamstring thing, and he just never really – he was spinning his wheels all year. So we kind of just wrote the year off with him and left him in. But he's trained brilliantly during the off-season. Touch wood, I hope he stands up. He trialled well the other night, but it was virtually only a reserve grade trial. He's going to get a better test this week against the Sharks. But, Sammy Hughes is he's a prospect, and I think we've just agreed to terms to extend him for a couple of years, which is nice.
Breaking news. Yeah. Sam Hughes re-signing with Canterbury. All right, well, look, for fans of the Dogs, there are a lot of them that listen to Gus's podcast, of course. There is hope of a much improved season, and I'm not going to ask you where you're going to finish, because you're going to say there's a whole bunch of teams battling for a spot in the top 8, and you're hoping to be amongst them, correct?
We'll finish where we deserve.
Okay.